All right, we're going to begin. So welcome to Coffee with Envision. This is our first webinar of 2018. Hopefully everyone had a wonderful holiday season, and we're wishing everyone a happy and healthy new year throughout the coming year. Today's webinar, we're going to talk about, or the topic for today's webinar is Weathering the Storm with Hyperlocal Coverage. Today, we will present from Envision Virtual Services weather reports, the ability to localize content for radio stations and create your own local staff meteorologist. Joining us today is John Wetherbee. John has been doing weather for many, many years. I won't tell you how many. He can tell you how many. But John has done both radio and television over the years. He is one of the well-known award-winning meteorologists. John, welcome, and love for you to give a little background in terms of where you've done weather over the years.
Okay, sure. Hi, everyone, and thank you, Danno. John Wetherbee, now in Savannah, Georgia, chief meteorologist for the CBS station, working for Raycom Media, WTOC. Started my television career in Chattanooga, worked through Atlanta, through the CBS station there, and now I find myself along the lovely Georgia coast. Absolutely love it. Work experience, though, is kind of what you guys want to know about, with starting my radio career in Ohio, working Indiana, Chicago for many years with the old RKO group, and then doing weather for different stations in each and every time zone. I'm the father of 3 daughters. And one of my daughters once calculated that every hour of every day, I'm on a radio station somewhere doing a weather forecast. Well, I'm not sure how proud I am of that, but it shows you we do a lot of different things for a lot of different people, and very happy to be a part of Danno's Envision radio networks.
So, weathering the storm with hyperlocal coverage. Again, today we're going to also cover how to make your news and weather sound bigger than even your market size, and have a presence inside the marketplace. We want you to understand how to cover local severe weather and how to provide that so that your listeners are getting what they need as things are breaking. And of course, we want to show you guys how to use not only the weather on air, but in addition, online and on demand. Part of that is, again, repurposing weather not only on your website, but also for the mobile app. A lot of stations have mobile apps, and we want to make sure that you're having your weather forecast there for listeners to consume when they want it. So, what is Envision Virtual Services? Well, it's a turnkey solution that we provide for stations in terms of their weather reports. We have the ability to produce daily weather forecast, and we can do it on a local basis or on a regional basis for your marketplace. And we can even do it on a cluster basis. So we can create a weather report that can be used across multiple stations. And of course, everything that we do is done by our experienced meteorologists. That's all we use are certified meteorologists to deliver the weather. And we do that on purpose because we don't want rip and read weather. We actually want forecasting to take place as we present these weather reports. The benefits of using Envision Virtual Services, again, most important is the severe weather updates and the coverage that we can provide during emergency weather situations. So very important that we have a direct pipeline to stations. And then as severe weather is breaking, we have the ability to get that to the affiliates and on air within minutes. Again, we want to make all of the content that we provide as something that could be used in addition to on air, both online and when listeners want to hear it on the demand. And finally, most importantly, anything that we do, we want to make sure it can be easily sponsored and monetized at the local level. So let's meet some of our meteorologists in addition to John Wetherbee. There's John, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner. We also work with Bill Jackman who's up in the Northeast. Laura Huckabee is based out of the Southeast. Greg Solje is in the Midwest, and Greg Williams is up in the Great Lakes region. So the good news is that we have our meteorologists spread throughout the country, and that helps us in terms of our weather coverage and providing the necessary severe weather coverage that you'll need during storms as well. One thing to make note is that all of our meteorologists are AMS and NWA certified. We feel that that's important, that again, we're dealing with nothing but people who really understand weather in terms of how to forecast and do these customized hyperlocal reports for radio stations. So we're going to get into it, and John's going to tell us a little bit more about how he prepares and puts together these localized forecasts for stations across the country. But as we do so, there will be lots of questions, as we know. And again, a couple ways that you can get questions over to us throughout the webinar. You can email them to daveh@envisionnetworks.com. If you're on Twitter, @Envision News, and of course, those who are hanging on Facebook.com/Go Envision Networks, send in your questions throughout the webinar, and we will get a chance to answer a lot of those at the very end of the presentation. So you heard from John real quick. He's modest. He won't say it, so I'll just list all the awards and accomplishments that he's done. He is a Georgia Radio Hall of Famer. Last year, he was given a GABBY Award for Excellence in Broadcasting. He does do the Georgia News Network, which again, Envision Virtual Services provides all the weather throughout the state of Georgia for the Georgia News Network. He is a 4-time Forecaster of the Year, and of course, on the board certification for NWA. So, well, I don't want to put him on the spot and say do a live weather report, but what we'll do right now is we'll play a sample of John in terms of his weather report.
Winter weather advisory continues, possibly 1 to 3 inches of snow. Winter storm warning for many of our northwest counties. Perhaps 3 to 6 inches, already several inches have fallen. Nashville's most accurate and dependable forecast from the Springer Mountain Farms Weather Center. Slow-moving snow bands moving through Middle Tennessee. Snow mainly before noon. Northwest winds. High only 16. Oh, yeah. Cold is a big part of this story. Mostly cloudy, chance of flurries 6 tonight. Wind chills tonight as low as -5. WSM staff meteorologist John Wetherbee.
So, John, you're not based in Nashville, and yet you're doing local reports. How do you make that happen?
Using the National Weather Service database, and quite frankly, that's the authority. They're the folks that everybody else uses for data as well. My challenge here is not to out-forecast the National Weather Service. My challenge is to take the National Weather Service information and forecasting and make it as lifestyle-oriented, make it as compelling, make it as easy, usable information for our listeners and our clients. And I can put it into a form that can be repurposed across all kinds of different platforms. So by using MP3 files that we deliver automatically to you through a computer system, grabbing software system, so that it's hands-free. More importantly, I can do billboards that the National Weather Service won't do. I can do special SIG-outs that the National Weather Service or any other weather provider will not do. You won't hear AccuWeather doing any kind of sponsorship tags. We can do that for stations, and we do that. This has to be a money-making or monetizing situation. So everything starts with the National Weather Service for me. My little studio here is all set up with automatic capturing of forecasts and data graphics, all the different computer models that come in through the day. I have them highlighted for the markets that I'm responsible for, the markets that I'm part of their team, and that's very important as well.
Well, you mentioned about doing some custom opens and closes, and so let's get a perfect segue. Let's hear what they sound like. Here's a custom open and a custom close and an ID and a sponsor ID.
KCRG Storm Tracker Radar Weather. Meteorologist John Wetherbee, and that's your wake-up forecast on the new Magic 99.5 80s to now. Brought to you by IQ Wealth Management. Do you have a financial security plan? We all need one. Meet with an experienced planner. Call Steve at IQ Wealth or visit IQWealth.com.
So, John, on those different custom open closes, and again, particularly the sponsored ID that you do, how is it that is put together, assembled on the station side, for each of your reports?
Sure. I have several stations that like to do what we call a double punch. I'll record with my voice on my microphone so they match up. I'll record the commercial ahead of time and then just simply do the daily updated forecast, and they'll double punch one into the other. Several other stations, however, I kind of work it in. I produce it all together so that the commercial is already produced on my end, and the cut that is received at their end has everything put together. It depends on if there's a grabbing software system involved or not, like Radio Spider or Synchronicity, which we'll talk about another time. All those, whatever makes the logistics work best for the client, I'm able to do either and happy to do either.
And in the case of WSM in Nashville, how many reports are you providing on a daily basis?
Normally, just only a couple in the morning, couple in the middle of the day, couple for their afternoon drive, and then we do a trucker's forecast that Eddie Stubbs runs Monday through Thursday night, which sometimes can be a minute and a half long, talking about all the different interstates that are having to deal with any kind of weather problems. We're getting ready to expand that. Each station has different priorities of what they want to do, and it's kind of an a la carte system for me in terms of how we value that. But each one becomes promotable, each one becomes sponsorable, so that's important as well.
And so in addition to the sponsorship and what you can do on air, let's talk a little bit about what people can use off air, particularly if they want to post stuff online or in their newsletters. And I know one of the things that you provide for your affiliates is your coverage throughout the summer months for hurricane season. You want to tell a little bit about what you do and
Sure.
what you provide?
It's important for the planning of our stations. I use the phrase that I'm part of a station's team. I want the team to know what's going to be happening and to anticipate. And one of the neat things about hurricanes is, of course, we get a little extra lead time as to what's coming up. Everybody in the tropical business kind of works on a 5-day plan of where is it now, where's it going to be day 4, day 3, day 2, and possible landfall. And targeting of that storm becomes narrower and narrower as you get through that 5-day cycle. I write a little paragraph, couple of paragraphs, usually 3 or 4. I try not to make it real long. There are a lot of different sources of tropical information. I'm part of the National Hurricane Center discussion. I hear what's going on. I participate in several of their conference calls with emergency managers up and down the coast. That gives me some insight as to what they're thinking and what they plan on doing about it. I don't try to out-forecast, again, the National Hurricane Center, but to provide that information so that they can make decisions. And the station's local emergency managers will be making decisions based on that information. So everybody's on the same page. Believe it or not, there's 144 different internet forecasters that try to provide hurricane forecasts, that try to outdo everybody else. 10 days before a storm makes landfall, they're saying, oh, I know where it's going to happen, and you're supposed to act upon that. That's financial foolishness if you do that. So we try to make the odds work in your favor. We try to help with as much as we can, and part of that is communicating the information as to help you plan for how storms may impact your area, and directly how they could impact, how much flooding, how much storm surge. If it's a backdoor storm, which means for the East Coast, it comes through the Gulf Coast and comes backdoor into your coastal areas. All those kind of phrases, we make sure everybody knows what they mean. We make sure their personalities know what they mean. In one station, we've even written a hurricane handbook, which was taken from the National Weather Service and the Red Cross. It was real simple to put together, but I'm happy to do that so you have that information.
Terrific. All right, this next part, John, so I'll have you cover your ears because I want to do a little comparison here. And one of the things that we hear quite often is stations have their weather being taken care of for them, through the TV. And that's okay, if the TV personality isn't in severe weather. But when severe weather hits, a lot of stations will go ahead and just do that straight up simulcast. They'll pick up the TV sound, and that's what they'll play over their radio. And so we have a great example, and this is a real life example of what took place in terms of a TV broadcast during a severe weather storm. And then we'll show you exactly what Envision provided during that same storm. Again, anyone who's listening and following along, again, pretend you're driving in your car and you're listening to the radio. You tell me which report you'd rather be listening to.
This is the biggest hailstorm I've ever seen. And it's coming down right now, and I've been around for a long time. So this is big hail, and it's coming down really heavy right now. This area in purple and white here is moving right over Channel 3. I hope it doesn't get much bigger than that. It's golf ball size, okay? Now it's golf ball size hail. It's bigger, and that causes damage. Whenever there's golf ball size hail, there's always that potential. Right in here, folks, I still think, in my opinion, let's see, we got some more? Holy mackerel. Oh, yeah. Look at this, folks. Maybe you see it. They why don't you put it in front? Put it in the hat. Show everybody in the hat. Oh, go over there. This is how big it is. Golf ball size hail. It's sort of in the dark here. But we're getting...
Okay, so imagine you're in your car, and that's what you're listening to. It sounds very visual, and again, if you're watching TV, a lot of radar maps and all that stuff, that tells you nothing about where the storm is, other than it's hailing. So instead, this is the type of report that we would say you would want to run during severe weather.
Watches continue for all of the area until 10 p.m., but hail is also a concern, starting to develop coming up the Tennessee River Valley, approaching Chattanooga. Reports indicate pea-size hail increasing to golf ball size, and that's an immediate threat for anyone who's outside. That's the kind of hail that's incredibly dangerous to drivers, too. So pull over now, find a safe spot. You do not want to drive in this kind of a hailstorm, perhaps the worst we've seen in Chattanooga. Northern Hamilton County getting heavy rain, some gusty winds, also travel concerns for sure. But from Signal Mountain across downtown, headed east toward the mall, that's where the hail track is right now, following I-24 eastward and starting to cross I-75. Again, pull off the road if you get caught in this hailstorm. National Weather Service has just added a severe thunderstorm warning, too, due to this incredible hail now falling over portions of our area. Put your index finger in a circle to the tip of your thumb, as if you're indicating it's okay. Well, that's the size of this hail, and that's not okay. You need to seek safe shelter now. Imagine all the windows on the Tennessee Aquarium in this heavy hail. Damage reports so far, US 27, Hicks and Pike. Multiple accidents reported due to the damaging hail. So we started with ugly clouds threatening the ride home for everybody, headlights on. Then a gust front blew through, gusts at the airport up to 65 miles an hour, causing numerous reports of tree damage, power outages, Saudi Daisy down to Rossville. And that was followed by downpours of locally heavy.
All right, and so it goes on for a few more seconds there. But bottom line, John, is during that coverage, what are you trying to provide for stations during severe weather?
A way to communicate information without the visual element. There are a lot of really good TV meteorologists that do a wonderful job during local severe weather episodes. And they do that wonderful job because they have such experience in doing it. They've learned how the technology works. We take that experience, we take that technology and try to give it to people who only have the audio portion of the screen. As embarrassed as I may be by what you just heard, you can pretty clearly hear the difference. The one guy was working with, look at this, look at this, look at this. The colors, they mean nothing to you. But if you're sitting in that storm, if you're listening to your favorite radio station, if you're listening to the station that in the community is known to have the weather coverage while everybody else may be satellite delivered and nowhere near able to help anybody else, this is the kind of the description, the kind of weather information that you want on your radio station, and that's what we are providing. And having worked in Chattanooga, that made it a little easier. I knew some of the areas. That's one of the things we do. We go out and learn your community. We learn the roads, we learn the schools, we learn the state champions, we try to avoid the politicians, but you get the general idea. You try to get a bit of a notebook on each market so that you can speak to it. One of the things you don't want to do is try to impress everybody with your local knowledge. But if you just drop in a line now and then, like I was doing there, it really does wonders to connect with your audience.
Well, we want to get to a few questions, and we're running short on time. So just want to remind everyone that there will be a survey following this presentation. For those who will spend a few minutes, and it's not a long one, fill it out. And again, we're going to send you a limited edition coffee/soup mug from Coffee with Envision. Is big enough to actually hold both soup and coffee at the same time. So for those who enjoy that, have at it, but happy to send that to you. And also, those who've been trying to keep up and do the notes, no worries. We'll send you the entire webinar, the whole recording, Weathering the Storm with Hyperlocal coverage, within the next week. So just watch for that coming in your inbox. Okay. John, there's a couple questions that have come in, so let's see if we can answer a couple of these right before we close out here. Again, have a question. This came from Steve. How quickly can stations get the severe weather reports that you're providing?
National Weather Service, through the First Alert System, can send things instantly. They will be instantly in the computer. Some stations are First Alert stations where the National Weather Service actually interrupts and brings the severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings instantly on your station. We take that information and we provide the context of where the storm is, which way it's going, what's been reported of the storm. We find that the easiest way to do it is through an MP3, shipping it off to you through the delivery system. That way you can repurpose it to your other platforms. Some stations have asked us to use FaceTime. Happy to do that. There are several internet connections that we can do. We just don't find the audio as well. And I've often used the telephone, thinking that that's the way to instantly get it there. So the answer to the question, Steve, is as quickly as possible. If you're a First Alert station, you'll get it right away. The National Weather Service will interrupt your programming. And we follow that, and my average time is 2.5 minutes, believe it or not. That's pretty good, especially with a 12-minute warning. We've still kept a lot of time for everybody to see what's going on.
And question coming from Jen. What happens when my station's meteorologist is sick or unavailable?
There's a team, Jen, and the team is very important. What we try to do is build one personality for your station, making it a promotable voice, making it someone that the audience is familiar with. However, if we get to a situation where there's severe weather, someone's not available, perhaps on vacation, perhaps they're sick, perhaps they're doing a TV weather show in another market. Whatever the situation may be, there's a team in place, and the 4 other folks all can step up and get you covered with the information you need. That's why that teamwork, and the other meteorologists, the ugly faces you saw, except for Laura, the other faces you saw just a moment ago, that's why we're all there.
John, we are out of time, but I want to thank you for sharing your insight, your knowledge, and again, the overall process in terms of creating, hyper-local weather reports for radio stations.
Happy to do so. Happy to do so, sir. Thank you.
Our next Coffee with Envision will be announced, so watch your email and watch the trades for the announcement of when that will be. And again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Have a terrific afternoon.